Catholic Parents Online presents Portraits of Courage, Part 1, Into the Light.
Not being able to deal with this issue had a serious impact on me and my happiness and my ability to just take care of life.
Do I feel that homosexuality is immoral? No.
I always felt like I was always walking the sidewalks at night looking, and I was.
To even admit something like that is very shameful, especially for women.
Whatever you want to do, you know, one life to live sort of thing.
Once I got caught up into the lifestyle of being gay, what I found out eventually was it wasn't making me happy.
Courage began at the bequest of the late Cardinal Cook. It began in this fashion that Cardinal Cook felt that there were many men and women with same-sex attractions who wanted to live by the teaching of the church but had no guidance, no support. And he asked Father Benedict Greshel. Father Benedict Greshel said that down in Washington, Father Harvey's been giving retreats to priests and brothers for some time now, helping them who struggle with homosexual difficulties. And so I came to New York and met the late Cardinal Cook, and he said, "Will you do me a favor?" Well, of course, I knew what the favor was. I said, "Yes, every Friday afternoon I'll come up from Washington, and I'll be here for Friday night, and we'll have meetings." And that's how it began. Courage has had a wonderful development from 5 people in 1980, all the way up to about 80 places in America where Courage is found, either in a group or by contact people, and also in Canada and in Great Britain, in Northern Ireland, Ireland itself, the Philippines, and Poland, New Zealand, and Australia. And now we're going into South America. So it's moving ahead, and we must pray that it continues to move ahead.
I had been in the lifestyle for about 12 years. I was in a lot of pain. The lifestyle was not helping me deal with the root causes of that pain. And at some point, a professional counselor turned to me and said, "You're gay." And at first, I felt relief, because I was looking for definition. What is going on with me? Why do I feel this way? Why am I attracted to other men? Why am I always in so much pain? And so it was a relief. And he basically laid out, "You're gay, and this is what gay people do." And so I took his advice, and I began experimenting. And I thought, this is it. This is going to solve the mystery of what's happened in my life. This is it. But it didn't. After these experiences continued, there was still a gnawing sense in my heart. There was still that gnawing feeling that something is not right. A woman I had met at work had introduced herself to me, and she turned to me and she said, I sense that from the Lord that you struggle with homosexuality. And immediately I felt complete joy for just a moment. But it was the joy that I was able to connect with another person in a deep way. And I felt a tremendous amount of hope in that moment. Courage introduced me to a new word, and it's called chastity. Up until that point, chastity meant to me, no, 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 sex. That's what it meant to me. It was repression. But in coming into my first courage meeting and meeting all the guys in that room, I began to learn, first off, that the Catholic Church does care for all of its people, including people who struggle with homosexuality. That was a revelation to me. Chastity, instead of being repression for me, ends up helping me to open up to the possibilities. This is what I felt God telling me. Wait on those sexual impulses and let me help you. I waited. I started living chastely. First physically, and then I started moving more internal, trying to focus more in on the answers that God was bringing to me about my life. Since then, that pain bubble has burst, and there is no more pain. Sex is not a compulsion for me anymore. And I'm able to relate to people in much healthier ways now. And it's very satisfying.
The thoughts I had when I realized that the attraction was towards the same sex was fear. Fear and self-hatred. Because I thought, oh, if people knew that this is how I was oriented, they would reject me. My journey to courage took a bit of a journey, first of all, to learn about courage. I find it's made a difference because before I felt alone, I felt isolated. I didn't know if there was anyone else who was a Catholic, who felt this way, who wanted to be faithful to the teaching of the Church. It's given me the foundation to know what the Church teaches, to understand myself, to understand some of the inner workings of the kind of the roots of the homosexual struggle, and how to deal with that as a healthy, mature person. I've come to a place where I've accepted that, okay, this is how I struggle, and that doesn't make me a bad person. But that doesn't mean that acting on those inclinations is right. I am created in the image and likeness of God. That's absolutely true, and that's true for every person. But just because of that doesn't mean that I'm perfect. My desire to be chaste is not born out of self-hatred or out of some misguided understanding of sexuality. My desire for chastity is to be faithful to the teaching of Jesus Christ. Living chastely has helped me come to a better love of myself.
I was very close to my father. You know, I was like his little buddy or something. I think I was more with him than I was with my own mother. My emotionally was more to please my friend and to get closer and more intimate with my girlfriend than to go to a dance and be asked to dance by a boy. There was a basic inadequacy in feeling female. So I actually gravitated more toward women that were very feminine. I met a friend when I was in my early 20s, and I became, very close to her. We did experiment, sexually, but at one point she was dating a man and it put a great threat in my life. My whole psyche was being very disturbed. And I remember saying within myself, if there's a God, he would have to hear my pain. And within 6 months, I came into a conversion. And I met a nun. I felt like I could trust her, and I told her what was going on with me, and she took the risk and was able to listen to what I had to say without feeling terribly threatened or, challenged in any way. And, she embraced me. I had a religious conversion at that point. God started to instruct me about chastity. And at first, I just couldn't believe I could live a life without a relationship. I was a child of the 60s and 70s, so the word out was that you had to have sex any which way to be integrated and to be a full-blown person, which I've come to discover is not true. I opened up the Catholic New York paper, the first advertisement ever for Courage, and I was literally the first woman that ever, that's my 15 minutes of fame, I was the first woman to ever walk into a Courage meeting. But being around the men, I remember feeling, so well received, and they were like my brothers, I just felt a lot of dignity and integrity as a woman.
I was very promiscuous the whole time. In that lifestyle, that's part of it. To be with somebody, but you're going to be playing around also. I was still at home with my parents, and my mother and myself, we had this symbiotic relationship. And I knew that I basically had to detach from that because I was getting smothered. I left New York City and I went out to California. West Hollywood, though, was just at its time. I mean, it was just fantastic. Courage to me at first, I didn't want to hear anything about it. It just was a big contradiction. Over the years, mind you, my sister used to talk about it.
Of course, I felt a responsibility to, help him.
I was very too insecure, and the emotional dependencies and all that was too active to hear something like that, because that meant that I had to move myself away.
I knew my own struggle. I knew my own growth. It took time.
A lot of drinking. I got into a lot of drugs.
I remember, just always encouraging him to go to Mass, go to confession, even though he was in the lifestyle.
I was having a nervous breakdown. I was having a breakdown eventually. I was a lot of praying. It was a very, very, very scary time, but I could see now why that had to happen for me. It's like God just got me down naked, dark, cold, and just so I could look up at him. My brother had mentioned to me if I wanted to go to a Courage conference in the Bronx that year. And I was like, oh, Charlie, please, no, not that again. I don't want to hear that word. Anyway, I prayed on it. I did pray on it. And I went. My brother offered, he flew me in from Los Angeles and really took care of all the expenses. And I went to the Courage conference in '95, and I had a very, very severe, big old conversion experience at that conference. And I just remember crying a lot and getting down. Every time after somebody spoke at the conference or I spoke with somebody, I just ran back to my room and just cried and, God, I'm sorry, and what's going on? And that was freedom. That was the freedom. I thought the freedom that I was talking about earlier was true freedom, but this was something above and beyond that, something that I could never have even thought of, that a human being could experience. And I was just high. I was on a natural high. What do you tell people? What you just experienced? I mean, many of my friends had told me thereafter that even when I came back, I even looked different. Yeah, I had to tell a companion at the time what was going on, and I knew that I had to get out of West Hollywood. And I basically just sold everything that I had in Los Angeles. I was gone within 90 days from the conference. I went back and just everything just was changed. I never realized how empty my life was until I entered that life. I pray very much for the people that are in the homosexual lifestyle, that are struggling with same-sex attractions, because I know the cross.
But I was basically a loner, because I was kind of ashamed of what I looked like. So they decided to initiate me. And they did the same thing to my brother. They hung him upside down in the garage with a pulley, with rope. But he was fully clothed, not I. And having the feeling of being tied up was sort of, do I deserve this treatment? And the answer came to me, yes, I do. It was a form of punishment to me. When I first walked into a Courage meeting, I was kicking and screaming because I wasn't sure that I wanted to go. And when I got there, I'm glad I did. I gained a new family through Courage, through the people in Courage, because they accepted me for who I am, what I could do, what I can't do. They journeyed with me this past year through my growth.
Well, there was an interior struggle with the feelings, and because I didn't really have a way to deal with them, I didn't have somebody to counsel with me. They were just sort of in the background. Not being able to deal with this issue had a serious impact on me and my happiness and my ability to just take care of life. I guess you could say that I went through a nervous breakdown. I guess that's what you might call it. I went through a period when I was so confused about life, and I was so unable to deal with the emotional stress that that there was a period when I was suicidal. I felt a real need to find some Catholic help. And after actually searching with many priests, talking to several priests, and really not finding good help from most of them, I finally did come across one priest who he knew something about the issue, and he knew where to direct me. And he directed me to Courage and to Father Harvey. Once I was sure of God's love for me and his plan for my life, then I was able to deal with these issues. Well, at that time, when I was really in the dark days and the suicidal periods, if I could go back to myself now and speak to me then, I would say to myself that there is hope. And in fact, God spoke to me during those times and told me that there was hope.
I was thinking, well, it's probably not right, but it's not the worst. Hopefully God will understand. I'll deal with him later. When I started going to Mass during the week, I started noticing an impact. And it was 2 months after that I started going to Courage. So I believe the sacraments brought me to Courage. When I walked in there, they were very open, and there was so much honesty. And some people mentioned, I had a fall this week. And I remember, I didn't know what a fall was. I said, oh yeah, it's icy outside. Or somebody'd say, I acted out. Oh, you're an actor? So am I. I had no idea. I didn't get the lingo. My perceptions were wrong. That was a group of people that you can feel comfortable with, that you can discuss some of your losses in the battle, if you want to say, and some of the things that you gained in it.
Working in Courage has had an enormous impact on me personally, because I see the work of the Holy Spirit working through these people who are suffering, who are hurting. And I'm a priest, but I'm also a shrink. And my role is to try to heal. And when I see what can be done, I am so inspired and I am so gratified. People wonder what happens in meetings. I can only give you the one that I run, which is run on a 12-step model. So we open with a prayer, little reading, little reflection, but the members go around without crosstalk, without dialogue, without debate. There's no negotiation. All this person says, this is what I feel. So you said you would be willing to begin tonight. Anything you got to offer?
Yeah, I'm having a big difficulty with images lately. Actually, I was in a department store and
with no fear of recrimination or scolding, you don't need a response. You really need to be listened to and really need to believe in God and know there's a group there feeling the same, is supporting you. I teach in seminary, and I try to get guys to commit themselves to work in courage. Guys, I don't know anything about psychology. Are you willing to be priestly and to be compassionate? I don't care if you can't spell psychology.
Working with courage, I say, I'm really proud of working with these people because it takes a really degree of courage and no slouching when it comes to spirituality and the religious life. Serious and joyful at the same time. The sense of wanting to love God and do God's will, and in so doing there's this fight to have one's self-possession in order to serve God and respond to His love and obedient to His commandments.
Looking over the whole 20 years I've been working with Courage in New York City, I see very beautiful things happening. People begin to change over a period of time, not all at once. I've seen them form good friendships and become involved in the work of the church. And I've seen them be able to lead a chaste life, above all, but really living a life with a spirit of peace and love. Of course, it's affected me as a priest. I become so interested, and I see so many people out there whom we're not reaching. We have so many requests from all over for it, and we must continue to work and get other people to help us to get more people involved, to help these individuals.
But courage is really for people whose heart seeks to follow Christ. And every priest who loves the church should know that we love the church and we want to be faithful to her.
I think that it would be very useful, very helpful for members of the church community to go to their pastors and suggest that courage groups be started in their church.
I really want the church to speak out about the truth more boldly.
Coming to understand my emotions played a very big part in my healing process. And taking those emotions, all of them, to God was a very important part of my healing process. And if any counselor or priest can help a person with that, I think they would be doing that person a world of good.
And any priest that would be shy or timid in helping us, Jesus wasn't shy or timid in dealing with the prostitutes or the lepers, and dealing with those who were wounded and broken and yet knew the truth when they heard it. Those of us involved in courage, we're wounded and broken, but we've heard the gospel message and we're trying our best to respond to it.
Whatever you're feeling right now, today, is not a done deal. You've got your whole rest of your life, and feelings really do change.
The world gives us a view of what unholy sexuality is and tells us that it's a good thing. And we know from what the church teaches us that's not true.
what's real becomes an illusion, and what's an illusion becomes real. And it's very sad. It's very sad because the more you're into it, the harder it is to get out of it.
Now, because of the politicalness of the whole situation, is that, you know, if a person starts talking about their feelings and desires, right away they're kind of boxed up and wrapped up and shipped off into homosexual land.
Don't do anything now. Don't act out on them in a way that's going to help cement them. You act out with somebody, same sex, you're going to have memories of that, and your body will actually start to work against you. If you decide later on that you really don't want to act out anymore with anybody else.
I would say, don't give up.
I would say to myself that there is hope.
Look toward Christ.
And then one day we asked the 10 people to sit down and write out their goals and objectives, why they were there. They hammered out, literally, 5 goals.
First goal of courage is to live chaste lives according to the church's teachings on chastity.
Myself, I tried the other way of free sex. I saw that didn't work. The second goal of courage is to dedicate our lives to Christ through prayer, through the sacraments, through spiritual reading, meditation.
The third goal of courage is to share your thoughts and feelings with other people,
so that we don't have to face life's problems alone.
The fourth goal of courage is to be mindful that chaste friendships are necessary to lead this Christian life for good fellowship.
We don't follow Christ alone. We follow Christ with one another as a community.
As you develop these friendships, you have available to yourself a support system.
Even Jesus, put together, 12 apostles, knowing that, fellowship is definitely needed.
The fifth goal is to live good examples for others, especially people who are experiencing same-sex attraction.
Originally I did not want to do video because I didn't want to get exposure. I had spoken a lot about the need for courage to speak out, and I needed to put my words in action. I knew that it was the right thing to do. I had to let go of myself and let God come in and direct things and go against my own will.
To learn more about the condition of homosexuality, read Father John Harvey's The Truth About Homosexuality, The Cry of the Faithful. To read about the journey of one Courage member, read David Morrison's Beyond Gay. For a look at proactive parenting, read Don Schmirer, An Ounce of Prevention. A wealth of information, contacts, and support await you at Courage.